Hello everybody, this is a beautiful video, I hope, for you from the gorgeous Turangi in New Zealand. I'm just going to walk around and just show you a little bit of the bush where I am as I speak to you. And you can hear the birds, I hope. They are beautiful in all of this bush. I don't know if you can hear it. Anyway, I wanted to say hello. I wanted to say that I've heard a lot about the Nordic group and just a lot of beautiful comments about your commitment and how regular people have been on the Zoom calls and all the support from the teachers that you've been getting. So it's really nice to hear that. As a teacher that's been involved in the Bright Path for over 20 years, I always applaud people's commitment, of course, because that was obviously my own as well, to still be in this practice, 20-something years later. Why am I still ascending 20-something years later and in this organization? I believe in it with all my heart, mind, body, and soul because the evidence is so apparent. The evidence of how ascending works for us, just by using a tool, the Ascension Attitudes, which change your thinking patterns or interrupt them basically. They interrupt the thinking patterns which are unconscious, which are typically negative. And so this negativity can appear to be normal and natural, and it's not at all. And we don't know that until we've interrupted the thinking patterns and seen what's on the other side. And what's on the other side when the thinking patterns aren't happening is this beautiful presence or stillness or this ability to be in the present moment. This emptiness, this space that simply exists because that's actually always eternally there. All of my life I had searched for the purpose of my life. Who am I? Why am I here? What is this all about? And those questions were kind of like the haunting questions that didn't seem to be answered. So when I came across the Bright Path and was using these techniques, sorry, I'm looking at the birds, it was like the first step to actually seeing what I'm not. And I'd never thought of that before because I was always just kind of naturally happy and naturally in the flow with, I don't know, just life. That's just how my essence was and is. And so the ability just to be a little bit more positive or seeing things for the good reason for them being in my life was just naturally there. But I was unconscious to all the judging, the criticizing that was in my head, even though my persona appeared to be more happy or outwardly more content, a happy child. So when I started to actually use the Ascension Attitudes, even though I believed I didn't need ascension, I didn't need to meditate, and then I started to realize how different my state of being could be by just being aware of what I was thinking about, it was startling to actually realize what I was not. And to realize how much judgment and criticism was actually there. That instant eye roll, internal eye roll, like when someone says something or does something, you go, oh, that instant judgment that's there, that instant dialoguing of wishing something to be different, the instant judgment of someone's character, the instant judgment that you're not being seen or heard, or what you're doing isn't good enough. Who you are, it's just there. And that's where I realized it had nothing to do with the outward appearance. It had everything to do with the internal. The internal being, how do I feel? How am I reacting? How are those voices I'm thinking affecting me? And then clouding, filtering my response out into the world. Fascinating, because you can change your actions. You can do things that make you happy. You can go to a nice beach or a nice mountain. You can sit by a beautiful river. But if that dialogue inside your head is still running, you haven't changed. You've just changed the location of your prison cell, right? The prison cell inside you is still locking you, conforming you. That filter's still in place. It's just the outwardness has changed. I thought that was fascinating to really, really discover and see. So what Ascension is giving us is this beautiful tool to see what we're not. And at first it can feel like there's a lot that you think about, a lot of negativity, a lot of congestion in your head. And that's wonderful to see. There is no problem with that whatsoever. But see it, you must. Because otherwise you're still unconscious to it, and it still has the tendency to run, to control, to be the filter that you look through. And so the process of seeing what you're not is very valuable. So the Ascension attitudes are interrupting that pattern, interrupting the unconsciousness, or when you do become conscious that you're thinking, to then consciously choose for something different, praise, gratitude, or love, and then there's a space there instantly. And the truth is that space or that stillness is always there. But when you're not aware of it, it doesn't appear to be so. And so the journey we're on is realizing both what you're not and what you are. What you're not and who you are. And your journey of who you are will be yours as you realize you're not some of these thoughts, but you still do believe some of them, some of the other ones. When you can clearly see that you don't have to be angry, that you can just choose for an Ascension attitude. And then other times you just are sad. You know, like the ability to see what you're not and then realize what you are just keeps changing depending on circumstances, depending on habits, depending on how strong or how unconscious some of these programs are, some of these patterns are. And again, none of it's right or wrong. It's part of the journey. It's so divine, so freeing to actually be playing consciously, to explore, that none of it can be wrong. You know, I hear people going, oh my gosh, here comes that pattern again. I thought I got rid of it. Who cares? Who cares? It's your beautiful path to see it again. It's your beautiful path to realize that you're not that. So as you go through the day realizing there's times when you're completely unconscious and just thinking away, reacting through life, you know, that's absolutely fine. And then you realize that there's moments when you can think the Ascension attitude and you're present again. You just realize what a gift it is to become present. You realize what a gift it is to think the Ascension attitudes. I mean, I started off saying, why have I been doing this for 20 odd years? It's such a gift to actually be able to come back home to now and realize the beautiful stillness and contentment that it just resides here in this moment. And as you start to, with your practice, you start to reside here for longer and longer periods of time in this moment. You realize that life is unfolding from this moment. You are actually dancing and exploring this moment, and life is just simply being presented to you. None of that makes sense until you start to experience it. None of it makes sense. It's just words until it's your experience. So the invitation is to just keep doing it. Keep ascending, keep it as a practice, keep it as a growth, keep it as an exploration. And what happens is the new habit starts to grow. And that's what a habit is. It just is. And then as the new habit grows, this ability to see what you're not becomes more and more obvious, more apparent. And your ability to then let it go is easier and effortlessly possible. It's such an ease and such an effortlessness that, you know, and so apparent that it's almost like, well, oh my gosh, how did I live my life if I was so caught up in my head and all these stories? So it's really cool when you start to realize the effortlessness and the flow and the joy of becoming more present. And again, 20 years later, I'm still doing it because shows you who you are. And why would you want to give that up? Who are you? This ability to live life in unconditional love. Well, firstly, I had no idea what that was. And then when you start to get moments of just this love that just is for all things all the time, you're like, oh, that's wild. That's super cool. As that becomes normal, you realize it's always in existence. It's the thoughts or the judgments that are in the way. And so when you cease or stop to think them, the unconditional love is already present. Super cool news. There's this endless joy that just is, this happiness that just is for no reason. You really start to realize that life is meant to be enjoyed, not to struggle and be worried about. Worry then becomes mental, you see it as a thought and a story. Feeling overwhelmed is a story. And you start to investigate that and see that it's true for you, that if you stopped thinking, it doesn't exist. So again, the fascination for what you're not leads into what you are. If that isn't there anymore, well, what is there? This presence that's simply aware and enjoying now. And then people talk about peace too. Well, the franticness of life, the craziness of life is very unpeaceful. The worry is unpeaceful, not peaceful. The stress is the opposite of peace. So when you stop thinking, you realize that peace just naturally is. I actually prefer to use the word contentment. Contentment is such a foreign word in people's vocabulary when they describe themselves. But when you aren't thinking and aren't worrying about stuff, you fall into this contentment of just what is in this moment. The energy of fastness, of fretting, of frenzy, all that energy just doesn't exist if you're not in the mind worrying about things. So you allow yourself this beautiful presence and existence in this life just through the practice of ascending. It's like it doesn't end. Even the words that I've just shared and the word choices I've used to describe doesn't end. There's no end to the depth of the realizations, because you're moving in life every day, because you're talking to people with different conversations and different people every day. The depth of what unconditional love is, peace, happiness, contentment, the depth of that keeps evolving for you because every situation and every interaction is different. But your ability to play and for your ability to be it brings all the expectations on someone else to be to give you the happiness. It brings it all back to you. You become the core. You become that which is able to choose for happiness or not. You become the center of your happiness, your peace. And even then that dissolves. Firstly, that's amazing because you're no longer a victim. You're actually the creator through choice of what is and what is not for you, which is very empowering. People talk about self-empowerment. Well, this is the ultimate of it. And then even that gets let go of because you realize there's a me wishing to be happy. So even that gets let go of into pure happiness for existing right now. Again, this all sounds like words until it's your own experience. But the focus of ascending moves then from how much do I think the ascension attitudes to the pure experiencing in the presence of now. And the dissolution or the dissolving of any thought, any concept, and even the thought of I prefer to be happy than sad, I prefer to eat this and not to eat that, even that thought stream, that story also gets dissolved. You see that also as a story, and also taking you out of the existence of now, the pure existence of now. It's all so cool. It's so insanely precious and sacred and holy and yet normal and obvious. it should be taught in schools, really. I am a huge cheerleader that even the word meditation should be changed, because there's so many concepts around, oh, you meditate. And yet it should be called how to live life. You know, if my desire always was, who am I? Why am I here? You know, the big questions we say, and yet that should be the normal questions. If I didn't ask those questions, I would be completely lost in the stress and the struggle of life. But because of those questionings, I am conscious of choosing for peace, experiencing contentment, realizing an unconditional love that's in existence all the time, and being that chooses for that, you know, completely empowered, in control of that choice. And then, like I said, you then let go of that control and that ability also, and realize that you were never in control, that life is unfolding perfectly. And so then, saying all that, if life is unfolding perfectly, there is nothing wrong with anything you experience today. You have a choice, yes, but there is nothing wrong. So you have the choice to actually see the thoughts and let go of them, see the emotions and the reactions and let go of them. But if they are there, there's nothing wrong with that either. It's part of the perfect plan, the perfect unfolding of consciousness right now in all its divine glory, which takes the me doing it wrong out of the equation. So guys, I have been talking for over 15 minutes to you. It really is all of these webinars and videos, the joy of inspiration, the joy of remembering. But really the work goes back to you. It really is, where are you at? What are you choosing for? What are you seeing? Realizing that there's nothing wrong. Realizing that there's nothing right. Duality. Realizing that what you're seeing and who you are in this moment is absolutely perfect and divine, and any other voice is simply a voice. Any other comment is simply a comment. It's the magic of what we do, of being a human, and then even realizing that as you are divine, as you are living this sacred, beautiful life, this preciousness, that how you live it is your divine path too. So you don't even have to worry about that. However, you do have a choice. And to choose for ease and flow and happiness and contentment and peace just makes total sense, doesn't it? And then life gives you experiences for you to actually see who you are in those experiences, who you are being. And I love that, because there's always more, isn't there? The last thing I want to leave you with, well, I sort of started this whole talk by saying I've been doing this for over 20 years, and why? I guess the why really is because I was hungry to know the purpose of all of this. Why was I on this planet? Why is all this crazy stuff happening? So 20 years ago, there was still crazy stuff happening. What was the purpose of all of this? And who am I in it? Like, what am I really supposed to just be here 9 to 5 doing this job? And the answer has been revealed in, you will do what you need to do. You know, it's not about necessarily changing what you are doing outwardly in the world, your actions and your family and your career. All of that is just part of what the choices you are making. But who you are being in this moment, how you are interacting with people. Is it aggressive? Is it kind? What footsteps are left behind you? That is really so important and so beautiful, because that's the how you relate to your world and to yourself and to others is really what this is all about. And that's what made my heart sing. That's what made me feel fulfilled. You know, it wasn't all the stuff. It wasn't the things I could buy that made my heart feel fulfilled or my purpose in life. It was actually coming home, coming back to this moment and realizing the emptiness of who I am was actually where peace exists. The lack of a me thriving to be something is actually when I fell into pure contentment and the ability to stay there. That's what this practice of ascending can give you. So that's what I wish for all ascenders, actually, all people, whatever method we're using to explore that, because it's real. To know your divine purpose, to live in your truth, to be empty of the concepts and the fight, that's your truth, your purpose, and it's real.